And we who were making those promises turned out to be liars. We didn't know we were, but we were. The problem was software development.
Writing software, the programs that tell the computer what to do, turned out to cost 2, 3, even 4 times the price of the machine itself.
In fact, this problem of software development grew so severe that it really threatened the further growth of the computer industry.
Computers costing thousands of dollars a month would sit idle while programmers struggled with the arcane language that computers understand.
We BPX to 10D, AOR 10.
Well, this AOR gets us into a BSN 11. Don't we want a BSN 12 instead?
Unfortunately, computers cannot execute programs written in English. They require a special language of their own.
The computer only understands the language of binary, and it's really a code, not a language. Binary simply means zeros and ones, analogous to an electric light switch, which is either on or off.
The zeros and ones of binary code make it perfectly suited to computers that operate with thousands of electrical switches. In binary, the number 1 represents a switch that is turned on, and the number 0 represents a switch that is turned off. But what works well for computers does not work well for human beings.
If one simply looks at an example of what the binary code would have to be for 5 times 7 plus 3, one can see that it's incredibly difficult to write that kind of thing accurately. In the first place, it's tedious to write it, and in the second place, it's almost impossible to do it correctly.
Impossible because most programs were thousands of lines long, millions of zeros and ones. Programmers labored long and tedious hours trying to create programs, often to find they just didn't work. Then they spent even more tedious hours trying to find their errors. As had been predicted, this was not a job that attracted many people.
The shortage of programmers could, in the worst case, have caused the growth of the computer industry to come to a dead halt because there were so few programmers. Without programmers, you don't have programs, that is to say software, and without software, the computer is useless. You might just as well have an automobile without a driver. It doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there.
It soon became clear the software crisis could only be solved by making programming easier to do, to create higher-level languages, closer to human language. The first high-level language that became significantly used was Fortran. It was a language that could be used by scientists and mathematicians and was much easier to program in because it allowed them to write equations in the way they were used to. Fortran was great for scientists and mathematicians, but it was almost no use to business users who needed their own language, one that could handle letters as well as numbers and could process files of data.
For that, you needed a different kind of language, and that led to the development of COBOL, which stands for Common Business-Oriented Language. COBOL was very English-oriented. That is to say, you wrote the programs in a language which was certainly not identical to English, but at least looked like English when you read it and wrote it.
COBOL was terrific for programmers, easy to use and to find errors. And with the help of another piece of software called a compiler, the COBOL program is automatically translated back to the binary code that the computer understands. Higher-level languages like COBOL ushered in an endless variety of new uses for computers, even some unconventional ones.
Operating around the clock, this communication center receives and processes all incoming requests for police service. In Kansas City, Missouri, the American Hereford Association dedicated a new electronic computer. On hand to push the starting switch, America's grand champion Hereford Bull HR Silver Image 70. This hoof switch started a new IBM 1401 computer that will keep track of all registered Herefords. Silver Image thus became the first animal ever to trace his own ancestry and appeared quite interested in the results.
But most computers were found in administrative offices, where those armies of clerks were beginning to disappear, replaced by a single computer. Computers also started showing up in factories, controlling machines and processes that once required hundreds of human hands. A new word was coined to describe what was happening: automation.
Automation is a young, new word, heavy with promise and with problems. As a matter of fact, several people have suggested to us that it's a little too heavy for a Sunday afternoon in June. Could be. We shall see.
Automation became the burning issue of the time. Millions of workers wondered when they would be replaced by one of these giant brains. Television documentaries explored both sides of the issue.
Well, can my 4 children go hungry because of automation? Or what will I have to do? What do I propose to do if they do go hungry? What chance or choice is left to me but to turn to crime because of automation?
And it's true that this plant will cause a layoff of some of our loyal workers. However, it's a necessity to do it to be competitive in today's industry.
Sonny, I thought you'd never get back.
Hollywood also reflected the growing